Hey guys, it's Catherine. I just wanted to let you all know that I am no longer going to be part of Marks on Commentary. As much as I love you and all of our listeners, it's time for me to go on and kind of work on my own project. Jason and Eddie and I are still going to be friends. We're still going to be working on things together. And I'm really excited that I have a new project in the works. It's not 100% yet, so I don't want to throw any teasers out there, but it's going to be awesome. I'm really looking forward to it. You guys are going to be the first ones to know as soon as I get something lined up. Still follow me on Twitter. I'm at VLNPLYR2. Follow me on Instagram. It's the same damn thing. And, just really support Jason and Eddie because these guys are super awesome and I want nothing but the best for them. So just do me a favor, follow them, follow me, and when I get a new project, I'll let you know. But for now, this is goodbye.
As wrestling is ruled by economics, we are stuck with basic thugonomics. And the man who keeps saying business like he's trying to break a record in Guinness. We search for shows to remember. All we find is a promoter we want to dismember. We almost find it impossible to cope, yet we find reasons to hope. Promo we pledge, and we get the man who is straight edge. The story of a great stable we wish to tell, and the music hits Sierra Hotel. Then there's every arena's favorite son who needs his title run. Call him a goat or a dragon, we should all be on his bandwagon. He's the best thing on right now, way better than that movie star who raises his eyebrow. So stop your politicking, stop your crying, and give the title to Daniel Bryan.
I think this is fake.
You can't say that. I can say that.
Wrestling's not fake!
It's still real to me, damn it!
The unscripted, uncensored, loose cannon of commentary. This ain't WCW. This ain't Monday Night Raw. This ain't SmackDown. This ain't even WWE.
Do I have everybody's attention now?
The recognized symbol of excellence in sports entertainment.
You're listening to Marks on Commentary.
You are listening to Marks on Commentary. I'm Eddie Brophy.
I'm Jason Smith.
Now, I've been on what feels like a perpetual sabbatical for weeks now. For what it's worth to anybody, I've been down at Podcast Developmental. I'm working on a new gimmick, a more PG version of Drunken Uncle Eddie, if you will. Now we should probably address that. We're missing someone tonight. Didn't there used to be more of us?
You went the DX line. Unfortunately, we won't be bringing out Catherine on a tank, but more seriously, as you heard at the head of the show, Catherine's leaving the show, and this isn't we hate her or she hates us, anything. It was kind of a mutual understanding.
Well, Jason, we aren't fully briefed. She may not hate Jason. I haven't been on the show for a while. I haven't even been on Twitter I've been in a total media blackout due to circumstances such as becoming domesticated, failing basic algebra, and of course full-time jobs. So I haven't read the press release as I've been down in developmental working out the fine kinks of Piranha Man as a credible broadcaster. But it seems I've always said when we did the show, which is why I kind of scoff, or used to on Twitter when I was on there more, at fans accusing you of you do a wrestling podcast and how dare you don't know enough about wrestling. I really never said I did. Catherine, on the other hand, is in this 5 years in which she's gotten into wrestling, has gotten really into wrestling in all facets of wrestling, which includes a lot of facets of wrestling that Jason and I aren't very knowledgeable about. And it can be super stifling when there's a direction you want to think of it like a band. Like Catherine realized her talents as someone who's very connected to the indie scene of wrestling. I'm a lazy asshole who tunes into WWE when I find it fascinating, which makes for poor broadcasting on my end because there will be weeks where I don't watch any WWE television, and then there will be weeks where I'm glued to WWE television. However, Catherine's the type of person that she isn't just happy with WWE television. She likes to go out there and find independent wrestling, and she's really in tune with that. I am not, so I personally, on my end, think it's unfair for her to be able to have all this knowledge on so many different areas of this industry, while I'm basically the guy that's like, yeah, I watched Raw this week. It was okay. I mean, at some point, on her end, you're going to get frustrated because, you know, we've mentioned the show before. Catherine had a potential shot at working at Titan Towers as an intern.
Credibly does. That's not out of the realm of possibility for her.
Well, when she can get to Connecticut, and I'm sure she will. I mean, she's much more ambitious with turning her fandom of wrestling into a career. Myself, on the other hand, could not actually see myself working for a company having the limited or, you know, a certain amount of knowledge that I have. So I like to make penis jokes, especially whilst drinking. And that's not fair to Catherine, who was treating this thing as an actual platform for a good career. Jason and I are just bored and like entertaining people and like talking with you guys and like sending you DVDs from our closets. So, I mean, that's on my end of it, at least. That's how I would explain Catherine's leaving. And again, I know very little about it, considering I haven't really been on the show much. So,
no, I concur with much of that. And, you know, it's not like she's gone and out and you will never hear from her. No, she's actually talked to me about some projects, some really fucking cool projects, possibly another podcast that's pretty fucking huge for her. I'm not going to be the one to let the cat out of the bag yet, but when we know something, you guys will know something. You know, if there's a chance where we can cross promote between different projects, we'll do that. She's not gone out of our universe. She just won't be on the show regularly. You know what I mean?
So it's the thing that if Mark's on commentary were the state of wrestling currently, I have been down at developmental. Catherine has graduated to a bigger company, and Jason is Paul Heyman. So I think that's a fair way to sum all this up. Like I said, it's a fun thing to do when someone wants more out of it. I can't be the one to stop them, as quite frankly, again, I've always loved wrestling, but I'm more of a fair weather fan. I am not gonna hide that from anybody. I was just joking with Jason. I didn't even catch the pay-per-view from this past Sunday. I had to kind of go back and play catch up with it, namely because my interest thus far in the product. It seems funny because, and Jason and I have said in previous shows, I've always stayed with my fingers on the pulse of wrestling, but it seemed when the CM Punk Cena feud was literally, you know, blowing up Twitter to the point where, like, CM Punk was becoming a household name, wrestling reached that point of excitement that I hadn't experienced since I, you know, first really intensely got into wrestling as more of a casual fan in the late 90s. And then it kind of veered off, and it was just weird. It was like they couldn't ride their own momentum any longer.
Yeah.
Like, again, we've joked that, you know, you had stars like Ziggler, you had stars like Bryan, Punk, even Zack Ryder. And then it reached a point where it kind of went back to what I consider like the more dull years, where you were focusing more on guys like Orton and Cena. That's the thing, as a casual fan, I have the guys I really like that I'm hoping will get bigger pushes, and, you know, something will be a catalyst for them to be the face of the company. And when they start main eventing, and there are all these like technicalities for why they're not the top guy, and they keep reverting back to the formula that kind of, you know, got me out of wrestling in the first place, it's hard to talk about something so passionately when you're really not passionate about it anymore.
Yeah.
I mean, when Jason and I started this, I really thought this last year's WrestleMania season was getting really exciting because you were having guys, you know, with the introduction of Zeb Coulter and, you know, Jack Swagger's push, and then the controversy surrounding why he wasn't being pushed, and then Ziggler cashing in. Again, you start to see this youth movement happening again. And then you saw the pay-per-view. Jason was actually there. I wasn't. I watched it on pay-per-view. And once again, you found yourself disappointed in the end. Like I thought we had like 4 weeks of really intensely passionate and, good shows, because we were riding our own momentum with the momentum I'm sure all the other fans were riding into that pay-per-view, into that WrestleMania year.
Yeah.
And it just got dull again. And we were at Survivor Series. I remember the three of us were so disappointed because it was the first time I'd ever gone to a live WWE event where I was as bored there as I would have been at home watching it.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, the most exciting aspect of the pay-per-view happened off camera. So, I mean, well, that's where I think, in terms of the show, the steam kind of disappearing out of the show was just, or the show losing steam rather, was Catherine had other projects she wanted to pursue. I've been busy personally, and Jason stayed very true to what he does. He's a fan. He's always been a fan. But again,
it's been a trying couple of months where it's like the interest is losing, and you're trying to find that thing where you're like, I guess Goldust and Cody Rhodes is interesting, but there's not enough pieces,
Well, that leads us to, I mean, the WWE Network seems to actually, again, it may be less of the Chinese democracy of television stations now. I mean, I should retract that. It's less of the Dr. Dre detox of television stations and more of the Chinese democracy, where when they were first talking about it and they were airing those promos and it was going to be a tangible thing at the time, again, like all those major pushes, it was very exciting. And they just kind of, I don't know, a part of me feels like they just, too little too late. Like if there's a television station 24/7 dedicated to every era of professional wrestling and the old territories that have been bought out, so you get to actually get a history lesson in wrestling, I still think it's very exciting, but at the same time, it's still very ambiguous. Like, I think there's a lot they can do with it, but I'm just wondering if, because they're really trying to get people to, because from what I understand, it's going to be like a premium network. Like, you're going to have to pay for this. It's not going to come with like
supposedly it's going to be like a $10 Netflix thing, but I guess at the front you have to pay like a $60 lump sum to get into it, but you get like 6 months, so it's not like you're getting screwed out of $60 and then you pay 10 months after that. No, you get 60 at the front and then you get 6 months. That's my understanding of it.
I just want to know if the investment's worth it. I mean, like buying a ticket, like buying the pay-per-views, is it worth the investment? Because I can imagine a lot of wrestling fans kind of feel entitled now. I mean, you've been talking about doing this thing for so long, and you've built our anticipation for so long to a certain point that it makes me wonder, like, can they deliver now? Like, are you going to actually open up the library? And it's a really petty thing to complain about, but is it going to be totally uncensored in terms of, not having to go back and blur out logos and edit out matches, wink, wink, nudge, Chris Benoit. Like,
yeah, that's what I'm wondering.
Yeah, can we actually acknowledge the entire history of wrestling? Like, if you own all the entire library of tapes now, can we just get all of it uncompromised?
I don't know. You know what? I'll give you the perfect example of what I want out of a WWE network or a formula I want to see. WWE.com for, I don't know, since its inception to maybe about, 3 or 4 years ago was the dullest thing. It was just basically profiles. Maybe they had some, Titantrons or something. It was very dull. It was like, okay, there's no reason to go to WWE.com. Now, if you go there, there's actually interesting articles. There's all this interactive content. If you give me the WWE Network, the WWE.com equivalent on a network, I'm in. You know what I mean?
I was actually just going to point out to you before you even took the word out of my mouth, it's content. WWE.com has essentially become WWE Magazine.
Yeah.
The awesome thing about WWE Magazine when I was a kid was those interviews are totally fictionalized. Like they have their writers. And I've always wondered this too, and it's like the stupidest thing because it's probably the most obvious thing. I always wondered if they actually interviewed the wrestlers while they were in character, like backstage, or if the same writers who write the scripts for like the Raws and the SmackDowns and pay-per-views actually just fabricate the entire article as that wrestler.
I don't know.
And I mean, while absorb everything on WWE.com, I can imagine to a kid at the age I was at when I was really heavily into wrestling, off and on from like 5 to, 10, and then really heavily 12 to, 17. Having a copy of WWE Magazine was so exciting because I used to love the shots from the pay-per-views. And, me and buddies of mine used to have the collages in our rooms that we'd rip out of the WWE Magazine from all the pictures from the pay-per-views. But namely the articles, like you had the candid interviews with the person, so, Paul, Triple H, and then you'd have them in character like Stone Cold Steve Austin. Mm-hmm. And I think that's the cool thing about WWE.com. If they did that with the network, especially like, I really miss obviously he wasn't Michael Hayes when he did the free-for-alls, but what would he go by? Doc something or other.
Hendricks?
Doc Hendricks, yeah. If you had kind of like a setup like Jason and I've talked before, like Live Wire or Superstars.
Or even, do you remember Bite This?
I do remember that.
Like, I loved that. Like, ooh, you're giving me like, this is what these guys are really like. This is what I want to know.
No,
almost a light shoot interview, kind of. You know what I mean?
Correct me if I'm wrong, but Bite This was also prior to Matt Hardy being re-signed, when he was doing the Matt Hardy show and stuff. That was a show he called into when Lita was a guest.
Yep.
And I seem to remember when Draws and I want to say Josh Matthews. I could be wrong.
Sounds right.
It might have been Josh Matthews were hosting it. Ultimate Warrior actually called in.
Oh wow!
And got really like homophobic about, like, he accused Josh of being like gay, and then like he was basically, it was something to the effect of like, why should anyone take a cripple and a homosexual seriously or something like that? Because they were talking about the Self-Destruct and the Ultimate Warrior DVD, which I do want to point out they are working on a new Ultimate Warrior DVD.
Yeah, that interests. I want to know what that's all about.
I want to know because from what I understand, because I've watched interviews with him talk about Linda McMahon and just talk about how protective he was of the character for licensing in terms of comic books and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. If he gave them the okay, because I'm pretty sure he owns that character, or owns the likeness, the trademark of that character.
I don't know, but I think because it's a WWE manufactured thing and it's on their television, I think it's theirs. I don't know. I can't imagine them not to own the footage of something they created.
I'm more fascinated by if they're actually going to interview him, and if he's going to be able to commentate his own matches, if he's going to kind of catch people up as to, like, if you're going to do an Ultimate Warrior DVD that isn't completely for or against Warrior, I think the best way, in terms of being a fan and being a collector, if they're going to really give the fans the opportunity, like the Triple H DVD, more or less like the CM Punk DVD, if it's going to be a very true sort of evolution of the person and the character. And it's going to talk about the good and the bad. Mm-hmm. I would even love to see footage of him meeting, because I'd imagine if they kind of made him like the mascot for WWE 2K14, where he was the face of the game essentially in terms of the promotional stuff, if they're going to take you through how that even came to be in terms of maybe him meeting with Vince. And even then, like, I'm actually excited to see where this Hulk Hogan, and I'm not even a Hulk Hogan fan, but I'm genuinely kind of curious to see what involved, like, why would you reach out to Hulk now? Like, I just feel like he's a guy who he was WWF, but he's burned so many bridges, and I just feel like his name isn't as profitable as it used to be. Like, he's just, there's so much controversy, and, he's so notorious now for all the tabloid stuff that's happened and all the stuff that's happened following his reality TV, endeavors. Mm-hmm. Like, what could he bring to the table now?
But I don't know. WWE is perfect at flipping that shit around. And, Rob Van Dam on TNA, people come up to him and ask, when are you coming back to WWE, or when are you wrestling again? He's like, I'm on TV. But, he shows up to WWE Money in the Bank and he's the fucking hottest thing going. So.
Well, he was the hottest thing going at Money in the Bank. And I kind of feel like they just mishandled that character again.
Absolutely. But if they handle something right, they can make what they want out of it. And obviously for him, I can't imagine them not wanting to.
Well, I mean, I've always referred to the mid to late 80s of WWE as the comic book superhero era, in which you had characters like Undertaker, Ultimate Warrior, Jake the Snake, Hulk Hogan, and of course Sergeant Slaughter, Big Boss Man. that were really goofy and just stupid characters, but there was something so remarkably fascinating about them that it worked. And that people bitch about the PG era, and I've been one of those. I bitch about the PG era because I'm a grown man. Like, it's anytime, like, when you grew up with a favorite movie and you watch the movie, it was your favorite movie when you were like, what, 6 or 10 years old.
Yeah.
And now you're in your mid to late 20s and you watch it and you appreciate how stupid it was and why your parents hated the fact that they had to replace the VHS copy of it like 9 times because you played it to death. That's what wrestling is to me as a 26-year-old. So I can now kind of appreciate that really the PG era didn't ruin wrestling. It's always been PG. We just got spoiled at a time where wrestling was trying to go the Morton Downey Jr., Jerry Springer route, and it wanted to be more taboo or, you know, play with the taboos and be more provocative so it become more mainstream. You know, where they would get the cover of TV Guide and they would get, you know, the late night talk show interviews.
Yeah.
So to me, it almost seems fitting that if we're still in the Super Cena era of wrestling, why not bring back guys like Ultimate Warrior and Hulk Hogan? I mean, it's just weird because I know certain legends when they come back, it's like you're marking out seeing them return, like Bret Hart burying the hatchet with Michaels and, you know, Booker T at the Royal Rumble and then Mick Foley. And then, you know, you're at Survivor Series and you're seeing, you know, 3 of these guys just sitting there in their tuxedos and whatever, or their suits, and you're just like, man, like, they got old. Like, I could never see these guys strapping on a pair of boots and going back in that ring. Like,
yeah.
You know, so the nostalgic thing, it's good to a point. And I think that's why I've been kind of bored with WWE television lately, is because there have been their phases where they're, like, really, you know, pandering to nostalgia. Obviously, old school Raw, stuff like that. And, like, oh, let's get Road Dogg coming into the Royal Rumble match and stuff. Like, you know, they do all the older, like, 90 stars.
Definitely.
And then you have all these newer guys, and it's like sometimes they'll turn on. I remember when I started really getting heavily back into it during the Nexus era, I'd watch WWE television and be like, who the hell is this guy? And you just kind of feel like out of touch with it. And I'm just kind of hoping that if WWE Network is launched, it's going to bridge the gap between being 26 years old and being such a super fan when you were younger, and then kind of being a fair weather fan in your early 20s, to actually, like, knowing this is where the culture of wrestling has gone. And I don't feel as alienated anymore because all my favorites are retired and injured. Yeah. So I think a lot of that will help. And there's entire generations of wrestlers that I'm not an encyclopedia on. Jason might be, I'm not. That I would love to see a lot of those Bruno Sammartino matches and a lot of the territory matches. And, you know, I don't think it should be prominently WWE or WWF specific as much as I think it should cater to, you know, again, why I probably don't appreciate the indies as much as Catherine is because I never really had as much exposure to the indies.
Yeah.
You know, it's kind of like when you grow up and you're a fan of Aerosmith. They're these big arena rock bands, and that's all you know. And a fan plays you like Black Flag or like a subterranean like punk or indie group, and it's not like palatable to you until you really understand it. You go to a show or you see see the group play a few times, and you're like, oh, I get it now. I think that's the best opportunity WWE has of taking even the youth demographic they have and turning them from, you know, just prospective buyers into actual fans. I think that's what I would be really good for the business, is turn buyers into actual fans, turn consumers into actual fans.
Yeah. I agree.
But make it worth the investment. That's all I'm saying. Make it worth the investment. I can bitch about Monday Night Raw and Main Event and SmackDown because they're free. If you own a television, you have basic cable, it's free. I can bitch, but I also know that I didn't pay for this. When you actually pay for the ticket or for the event, WWE has always been steep. I remember joking with Jason back in the day when I used to pay $40 for VHS tapes.
Mm-hmm.
$40 for a WWE cassette or a WWF cassette. And then, of course, feeling like crap like 3 months later when Strawberries would do like the reduced like $20. But
bargain bin.
Yeah, but you were like really like kind of pissed off when the event didn't live up to the amount of money you put down on it.
Mm-hmm.
And you were just trying to do your part as a consumer and as a fan. And I feel like that's where wrestling, the bottom line became more evident than the actual, like, we hired the best of the best. Like Stephanie used to say in interviews, but we have Hollywood writers, we have these writers. well, you're not letting them do their jobs because, it's kind of like when a filmmaker finally gets the green light from a studio to do the film. Well, what people don't understand is there's investors, there's people, bankers and lawyers and, nobodies that have their investment in the film, so they all get a cut, but that means they all have control over what the film ends up looking like. And I feel like that's where WWE is right now, is you have all these people with their hands on the product, but at the end of the day, Vince McMahon gets final cut. If he doesn't like what the writers have come up with, it's ultimately his decision where the show goes. And if that's the case, like, Vince really needs to back off and, appreciate what he's done for the industry, not just that company, but the entire industry and the entire pop culture influence of wrestling. But I just feel like that's the thing. Like, let your writers do their jobs. And I don't feel like they've done that lately.
No, there's something missing. And, I believe the guy who was in charge of it, right up until the end of SummerSlam left right after SummerSlam, and that's where the lull period. And I think they've acknowledged that lately. It's slowly creeping back up to being somewhat interesting.
I think the authority angle could... It's like everything else, though. The Wyatt family angle was really working, and then it just stopped working. The Shield was really working, and then it wasn't working. I think it's because they don't know when to pull the trigger on when certain superstars need to go out as singles competitors anymore. Yeah. I feel like back when we were heavy fans in the 90s, you knew right away. Like, when Billy Gunn split from Road Dogg and they had their match Over the Edge, that was writers and bookers, people knowing this is the right time to break up this tag team. Mm-hmm. When Triple H turned on X-Pac during the Shane McMahon match at WrestleMania and joined China and the Corporation, that was like creative, knowing when to pull the trigger on, how long do we expect this whole DX thing to last. But they also knew when to reunite it and get people back into it again, and then turn it on the fans and make that group heel.
Yeah.
To the point where, like, you regretted ever wanting to see them together again. So, I mean, I just think that's really the disconnect for me, is just, too many cooks in the kitchen, I suppose. Like, there's too many people saying, we have this idea.
There's not a head chef. Or a knowledgeable head chef.
There's not a Vince Russo.
Oh, no. Don't say that.
I mean, personally, I won't say it with everything he did, but there was a lot of stuff Vince Russo did that I really liked.
Yeah. But there's also been a lot of shit, too. But he had the filter, though, of Vince. And I don't know if Vince has the same source and isn't able to filter out the same shit. Or, I don't know, he needs a Vince Russo-like person that can feed him on... 20 shitty ideas and pull out the 2 good ones. I don't know.
Well, we were joking before because one of the best Raws of 2013, you had done some investigative work and realized that Zeb Coulter and Paul Heyman wrote it.
Yeah.
Why were we not looking at that and being like, oh, those are the best ratings we've gotten in a long time? Clearly, these 2 guys are the reason for it. So, I mean, in terms of the pay-per-view, I'm not going to lie to you. I saw a few matches. Wasn't really excited about the pay-per-view. I did think the idea of having the 2 3-on-1 handicap matches was kind of interesting. But once again, I completely think they're mishandling Punk and Bryan again.
Yep.
And it's funny because I came into doing the show a huge CM Punk fan because, this was a character who was really the man who betrayed him. And now you're getting into more of, like, the dirt sheet tabloids of how Punk's been acting backstage lately in terms of, like, his girlfriend and stuff like that. And it's almost, like, kind of make me not like him as much anymore.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. It seems kind of funny that when he's not being pushed as, the champion with one of the longest title reigns, and he's kind of getting stuck mid-card again. Because that's what I would call it. It's still mid-card to me. Like, if you go from being the champion who held the belt for X amount of days, and your wrestling main events with Cena, The Rock, etc., and then you're wrestling in a handicap match with the Wyatt family, you're going mid-card.
Yeah, you're upper mid-card. That's unfortunately what he is right now.
So, I mean, I'm kind of even thinking from that pay-per-view, among other things, like the unification of the World Heavyweight and the WWE title. Now, what are they calling it now? The WWE Heavyweight title?
Yep. It's the official.
Are we, once again, going to come up with a new belt, or are we expecting our champion to lug around 2 belts every night now?
I don't know, because you know what I'm wondering is there was a rumor going around that there's a new WWE logo in place somewhere and it's coming out soon. I don't know if this is true or just an internet rumor or not, but it would make sense to make the WWE Championship, the one that The Rock debuted, but update it with the new logo, which I imagine is going to be somewhat like the WWE Network logo, and maybe use that as a way to get the World Heavyweight title off TV. I don't know if that makes sense or not.
Well, I know how high they are on the look of that title and how prestigious that title has been.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, personally, I loved the first Undisputed title, the one that Lesnar and Taker and people like that held.
Yep.
I don't know why they took that belt off and why they decided to do away with it. Like, that was one of my favorite titles. It just looked like a heavyweight title. It looked like an undisputed heavyweight title.
Yep.
I mean, I'm going to agree with you. I think a lot of the reason why they probably haven't debuted anything yet is because they're still biding their time in terms of when they're going to debut the network, what's the logo of the network going to look like, hence the new WrestleMania logo.
Yeah.
I mean, I kind of hate if that's the new logo, because I kind of hate the WWE Network logo.
It's grown on me slowly, just like the belt has.
Well, I kind of feel like if you're going to do a new logo, I mean, for me, that has been and will always be the Attitude Era logo.
Mm-hmm.
We are so far from the Attitude Era now. Come up with something totally different. I mean, I think that's what I want more than anything is if we're distancing ourselves from WWF and the Attitude Era, you got to distance yourself entirely from the Scratch logo.
Maybe. I don't know. I don't necessarily look at what we call the network logo as the Scratch logo so much as kind of like a modernized middle of the ground, classic block meets, Scratch logo look. I don't know. It's somewhere in the middle, I think.
I mean, I'd be even fascinated. Granted, I've asked listeners in the past to do things, and they haven't. That's probably why I lost interest. I'm like, we're telling people to do things, and they're supposed to be fun. They're not doing them. But if anyone wants to even take a stab at showing us what you think a logo would look like in terms of, I'd say tweet it to us at MO commentary on Twitter.
Yep.
I would love to see what do you think it, because I'll be honest with you, I used to be somewhat of an artist. I have no idea. And I think that's probably why they've stuck with the Scratch logos, because they're probably looking at their creative team being like, I have no idea what to do. Because that logo, like the block logo, has been so ingrained in popular culture as this is what WWE, like, as soon as you see that logo, it's like Ford or Dunkin' Donuts, you know that logo.
Yeah, you can't make a drastic change, It has to be a slow evolution. Because if you go look at, like, Coca-Cola or, I don't know, Walmart, Target, any of these, like, ingrained logos, over the years, has slightly been modified. But, you look at the first one, you look at the latest one, and it kind of mimics it in some capacity, so...
I mean, in terms of the pay-per-view, though, I mean, you even said yourself you were kind of doing your thing during it. You watched the first match, you went Christmas shopping,
Came back and watched the main event.
Yeah.
There just wasn't that much that I was interested in, and it didn't seem like the internet blew up over anybody's particular match. So...
Again, I haven't really been on Twitter much just because, there would be certain Raws that'd be a lot of fun to tweet about because they would throw a curveball at you. But, Kane going corporate and, Randy Orton beating Cena doesn't really surprise me because I'm really curious as how much mileage Cena has in the tank.
Yeah.
I mean, this is not a guy I see wrestling as he would probably want to for like another 10 years. I think he's probably got another 3 years in him, if that.
Maybe. I don't know. If that's the case, though, they need to find that next guy.
I don't think it's Orton. I don't.
No, not at all. But, I mean, that next young guy. There's a few contenders, but...
Is there anything to gain from a Cena loss with the unification match? Because I kind of felt like it was the giant douche versus the crap sandwich. It was you had Orton and you had Cena. Well, whoever wins that match, who the hell cares if they're the undisputed champion?
What's the lesser of two evils?
Yeah, and I mean, I think Orton because he'll help with the progression of the Authority storyline, but then you have Cena running out and saving Bryan, and it's like, what the hell is this bromance with Cena Bryan? Is this going to lead to a heel turn for Cena? Because if it leads to a heel turn for Bryan, it doesn't really serve a purpose in my mind.
That would be the wrong move. You know, we've talked, everybody has for the past 5-6 years. Oh, it's coming. As soon as he joins the Nexus, it's coming. Oh, right after WrestleMania, he's going to do something. It doesn't come. It's not coming. I've lost faith in that happening. If it happens, great, but I'm not expecting it to come anytime soon.
Yeah.
So.
Well, then that makes me, I kind of want to jump from TLC to inevitably Royal Rumble's coming up.
Mm-hmm.
Now, obviously, if you're going to end Monday Night Raw with you have Cena, Orton, and Bryan in the ring together, does it tease a potential triple threat match at Rumble, or is it teasing a potential triple threat match at Mania? Now, if Orton's holding the Undisputed titles, obviously he's probably going to wrestle Cena if it's a rematch. Are they teasing possibly Bryan to win the Royal Rumble and then have a triple threat at Mania? Or could you do a triple threat at the Rumble, have Punk win the match, the Rumble match, and then possibly get a fatal four-way at Mania?
I would hope so, because in my mind, it's you take the best of the best and you make it into the main event. And if you did the four-way with Punk, Bryan, Cena, and Orton, you're giving everybody somewhat something to cheer for, you know?
Yeah.
And you have Orton. That's the other thing I'm wondering. Does Orton make it all the way to WrestleMania main event as champion?
How much faith do you have in Orton as the Undisputed Champion to get him into Mania? Because we're still talking. I mean, what do we got now? It's December, January, February, March, April. You still got 4 months until...
But that sneaks up on you quick. There's 3 pay-per-views until then.
Mm-hmm.
So, folks, TLC's over. We're on the road to WrestleMania now.
Rumble snuck up on me. I was actually just talking with a friend because I'm working on this musical thing for my girlfriend. And we were joking because I had intended to have it done by Christmas Eve. It's now Thursday. Christmas Eve is fucking Tuesday night.
Mm-hmm.
And she was laughing because I've been talking about doing this for like a month. And she was like, Eddie, I can't believe how fast that crept up on us. I mean, when you're a wrestling fan or just an older wrestling fan, you don't realize, because when I was a kid, when we were in high school, like, WrestleMania felt like it took forever to get here. Namely, WrestleMania 20 in Madison Square Garden. I remember all the promos. Specifically, I lived Monday night to Monday night. It was the saddest thing in the world to certain people. I lived for it. Monday night to Monday night, following the Orton versus Mick Foley angle. That was one of my favorites. Namely, the return of Dead Man Undertaker.
Mm-hmm.
It felt like that pay-per-view was never, ever, ever going to come. Because of how intensely, like, I was just anticipating the pay-per-view so much. Now it's like when you're older and you're not paying as much attention, like, you'll, like, the other night I was like, oh my god, TLC's tonight, what the hell? Like, that came up fast.
Yep.
I mean, literally, we're 4 months away from WrestleMania. I mean, we had said a few shows ago that, like, oh, it's been like the 1 year anniversary of us coming up with the idea of doing the show. Literally, we're coming up to the actual year when Jason and I were going into the public access studio shooting the show.
Yep.
Because we're at WrestleMania time. I think we did that, what was it, right after Rumble?
It was right after the Elimination Chamber that we started doing them.
Yes, because we recapped that show.
Mm-hmm.
And you can't really appreciate it till you're there, like, oh my god, So you can only imagine working for WWE, and they spend, I'd imagine, an entire year. The day after WrestleMania, it's like they're already planning the next WrestleMania. I just feel like this year, I don't know, it's taking them a little longer. Like, it feels like year to year, it takes them a little bit longer to finally figure out this is what we want to do with the show.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm out of ideas. I have no idea what they could possibly do to get my attention for this show.
I don't know. I think the main event, I mean, yeah, you say, I think Bryan needs to go. At the end of the night, Bryan should be holding up the title or Punk. I mean, but that's what I say as fanboy for Punk. But if you're looking towards the future, WrestleMania 30 and Daniel Bryan holding up the belt is a nice way to end it. You know, maybe I've heard this idea proposed is you make Cena tap out to the yes lock. Something I've never seen Cena tap out.
Come to think of it, I've never seen Cena tap out either.
What an awesome way to, here you go, here's the future, you know?
Yeah.
I don't know. I like the idea of the Fatal 4-Way, but there's a lot that goes into that, you know. But at the end of the day, you like seeing, like, the one-on-one matchup, but the pieces alone I don't think are there. I don't want to see Randy Orton and Daniel Bryan for the umpteenth time at WrestleMania. I don't know. It's just not there for me, the appeal. So
what I genuinely want out of a WrestleMania is to feel what I felt last year when we started doing the show in terms of not knowing where they were going with it and having a few curveballs thrown at us, but namely actually having it delivered at the show.
Yeah.
Now, I'm reading here our Slammy Award picks, Fan of the Year. Where are we going with it? One question I do want to ask you before we get toward the end or the last bit here on the itinerary. The perfect gift to buy a wrestling fan this year. I've been thinking about this because I'm thinking, again, if you're a fan, like a diehard fan or a fair weather fan, or you know of one, in your mind, what would be the ideal gift to get them?
That's tricky. I mean, they just released that, I think it's like 10 or 12 bucks of Raw. Right? I think that's pretty up there.
No, that was my answer. I was going to say, if you know a fan who's either a casual or a diehard, that's got to be the gift of the year. That has the definitive quintessential gift.
Yeah.
I don't think it's going to be a replica title. I don't think it's going to be a T-shirt, because when Punk obviously was really hot, the best in the world shirt, that was the hot ticket item of that year. Like I ran to Hot Topic and got mine. Like everybody owns that shirt. I think this year I think it's the Raw box set.
Yeah, I'm hard pressed to think of anything else. Like, I don't know if you've watched the 50-year history or whatnot. It was okay.
I haven't watched that. I think it was just because the idea of a box set of certain full episodes of Raw, because again, DVDs, they're retrospectives, they're recaps, or they're just or it's a DVD of single matches. Whereas this is like an entire show. Like you have your lower, your mid, and then your main event. And it's unedited. And to me, that's like every fan, because that's like the precursor to the kind of WWE Network we want.
Definitely.
That would be gift of the year. In terms of our Slammy picks, please explain, sir.
Well, we'll just go through. We know, I don't know if you know or not what was picked for certain, awards or not.
I haven't had my fingers on the pulse of that, so if you want me to recap.
Superstar of the Year winner was Daniel Bryan.
Well, that makes sense.
Agree or disagree? Or would you place somebody else in that?
I would agree with that 100% because I feel like he picked up where Punk left off.
Okay. No, I'm with you.
I feel like, he's not really a character. He's Daniel Bryan. But I feel like what makes a wrestler exciting is both, is it someone you can root for or like really hate? Like Triple H would have been Superstar of the Year in '99 because I hated the guy so much that he was the reason why I kept turning on Raw, because I wanted to see someone kick the crap out of him. Same way with Bryan. Like I wanted to see someone like Bryan actually get the title without there being some stupid technicality ruining it.
Yeah.
And the guy can wrestle.
Diva of the Year. Who would you say is Diva of the Year?
AJ by default, I guess, because really there's just no diva.
Do you want to know who won?
Yeah, who won that one?
The Bellas Co. won.
Oh, that's stupid.
Yeah, exactly.
And you know what? They won on the popularity of Total Divas and not as being an actual. Yeah, that's
the WWE product.
Yeah, that's stupid.
All right. Let's see. Let me find some other ones. Oh, Match of the Year. What do you think was Match of the Year?
I would go Cena, Punk on that Monday Night Raw.
You got one of the participants right.
I know. I think I know that it was Cena Rock, right?
Yep.
That match sucked.
It was deflated. The audience was. I was there. The audience was dead. And I know that's what WWE thinks was the Match of the Year because it had the biggest build-up, and of course it's The Rock and it's John Cena, our company guy, and it's for the title, and it should be, but it wasn't.
No, it wasn't. What? All right, the two matches, in my opinion at least, both involved CM Punk.
Yep.
It was Taker Punk, and it was Cena Punk on that Monday Night Raw.
See, I'll even go Punk and Lesnar. I thought was awesome. I don't know if it was amazing, but I think it was a contender.
I will give you personally that just because of our synchronized. Oh man, that one was good, in terms of fan investment. It wasn't a good match, but in terms of like the false finishes, that was a pretty solid match.
I just wanted to see a fight. Like that's
Yeah.
what I went into it. But those weren't even contenders. Those two. So the other contenders were Triple H and Brock in a cage.
And that match sucked. That
Yeah.
was like one of the worst matches I've ever seen.
And then it was Cody Rhodes and Goldust versus Seth Rollins and Roman Reigns at Battleground.
I wouldn't have done Battleground, no. Well, actually, no, because that was no. Was that? Yeah, that was.
It wasn't even the tag win.
I was gonna say when they won the titles, that was a pretty good match.
But I don't know.
But it wasn't match of the year. Like it was a good match, but it definitely wasn't match of the year.
Double cross of the year.
Was it Heyman on Punk?
That was one of the ones, but it didn't win.
That didn't win. What did they end up giving it to?
Shawn Michaels super kicking Daniel Bryan at Hell in a Cell.
Yeah, fuck you. You don't know your. You don't
Now,
know-
is it fuck you WWE or is it legit because it was fan voting? Do you think that's the WWE audience?
What we know in terms of watching WWE, there's no such thing as fan voting. Otherwise, you would have had Mysterio and Sin Cara, and you would have had, oh god, Macho Man. I forget. There were like a few of those winners that we had joked on Twitter. I can't remember what we joked about now, but it was totally rigged.
Yeah.
Stuff. And why wasn't AJ on Bryan in there?
I don't know.
You know what I mean? Like that wasn't
Was that
like.
the year before though?
I don't know, I'm trying to think now.
I think that was.
Was that the year before?
Yeah.
Because there was only 2 double crosses, and that was one, and then Punk Heyman was the other. There really weren't any big, double cross. And if you're counting the Divas division, fuck you, nobody cares.
No, there was Mark Henry's retirement speech, which was awesome.
That was awesome, but that wasn't a double cross because him and Cena weren't a tag team. They weren't like best buds. Like they were just 2 guys sharing a locker room.
And then there was Triple H costing Bryan the title at SummerSlam.
That's also not a double cross. Triple H didn't double.
But they were presenting themselves as faces when they turned on them.
Still though, that to me a double cross was like when Kane and X-Pac defended against the Outlaws after they won the number 1 contendership match at Backlash, and Billy Gunn beat the shit out of X-Pac. That was a double cross because it was like, dude, we're supposed to be friends. What the fuck?
All right, insult of the year.
God, I don't even think.
I'll tell you the ones that didn't win. Zeb Coulter offends the WWE Universe, so it's probably anything he said. Heyman and Punk, Heyman knocking Punk.
Yeah.
AJ's pipe bomb, if you remember that, to the cast of the Total Divas.
Yeah, but that was so contrived that it was almost sickening. Like they totally fed that to her. So I
you would wish that one won. Stephanie berates Big Show was the winner.
Oh, the big sob when you made it cry.
Yep.
I think the insult of the year should have gone from WWE to the fans.
Yep.
Personally, I mean that's just my own outlook on that.
Yep. Let's see. LOL moment of the year. This one was actually funny. This one I can kind of agree with.
Which one was this?
Funny moments. It was actually presented by the Outlaws.
Well, who got this one? I'm asking.
Okay. Let me tell you who didn't win. Kali and Jinder Mahal, Snake Charm, Santino's Cobra.
Oh yeah, fuck that.
It's kind of funny.
Whatever.
I don't know. Titus O'Neil throws up on JBL.
Nah, I didn't. To me, I don't know. The jackass humor thing went away when I was like 14.
Vicky Guerrero is fired as Raw GM.
No.
Okay, and then the Rock concert where he kind of sings a little song to Vicky.
I see. That doesn't do anything for me either because I never liked the Rock concerts. I think it's funny because you can tell when the Rock's being genuinely funny. Like when the Rock came back, remember La Resistance when they were gonna fight Mick Foley, and Mick Foley did a whole bit about like, well, I like French's mustard and I like this, and then the Rock came out called the popcorn farts, and then was talking about how Lillian Garcia loves the strudel. To me, that could have been written, that could have been premeditated, but it just seems so genuinely fluent as Dwayne just visiting that night. It was like, oh yeah, I'll come out and do a thing. and just like ad-lib the whole thing. It was hysterical. That's why the Rock content sucked, because you're like, oh, that's totally whoever's writing for him. But like when he would make the surprise appearances and come out, like even when he called Cena a fruity pebble, it was such a stupid line, but it was so stupid you knew Dwayne Johnson had to have come up with it. Like, he had to have been like, all right, what do I got on Cena? Well, the son of a bitch is always wearing a different... He's a fruity pebble. Like, even when he was in Boston and he was throwing the Cena merchandise into the Boston Harbor, that was hysterical to me.
Mm-hmm.
Anything that Rock did against Cena was kind of funny because it almost seemed to come from a truly, genuinely pissed off, like, fuck this guy kind of place. Like, The Rock has what it takes. He really is a good showman, and he is a really good comedian when he wants to be.
Mm-hmm.
But when it's like the Rock concerts and shit like that, it's stupid. Like, I even found the bits where the fans, mind you, he's a heel. He's at like the fever pitch of being a heel. And, you know, he would do the whole, if you smell, does not sing a long time with the Rock. Like, he would get pissed at the fans. Like, it was, you could tell that was the verge of him turning face, was because despite how much of an asshole he was, the fans still loved his line.
Yep.
But they loved it even more when they would try to do it along with him, and he would just generally be like, no, shut up. This is my bit. You shut your mouth. I want to do this. So I wouldn't have gone with that one. Like, there definitely were funnier moments, but I think a lot of them happened off camera. Like, there were a few at Survivor Series with, like, CM Punk that I thought were pretty goddamn funny.
Yeah. All right, extreme moment of the year. Do you have a pick?
No. I mean, maybe anything that happened to CM Punk Lesnar match, but other than that, not really.
Okay. The options are the Shield triple power bombing the Undertaker.
Nope.
Let's see. Ryback spears Cena through the LED board at Extreme Rules.
Oh, that was stupid. I think the most extreme moment was probably fucking Punk pile driving Cena. In my honest opinion, that was pretty awesome.
Nope, but it beat out the Wyatts crushing Kane's head at SummerSlam. I barely remembered that.
I remember. They squeezed his face.
Yeah. You know what the winner was?
What was the winner?
Punk extracts revenge on Heyman at Hell in a Cell.
Oh, whatever.
Yeah, exactly. All right, fan participation of the year. Okay. Winners were not What's Up, which sucks, and Let's Go Cena, Cena sucks. You can figure out what the last two are. Do you know what they are?
No.
Yeah, you do.
Oh, was it the Fandango theme, obviously? Was that the winner?
Nope.
Oh, wow. Dude, they even synchronized their horns in the parking lot to that one.
Yes, 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 one.
Oh, dude, the Fandango thing. Literally, that, I swear to God, the entire fucking town is watching that Raw. They're drunk.
Exactly.
They're fucking drunk.
I don't get it.
That even itself could have been the turnaround for WWE, was realizing how much their fans are like, no, you want to give us a shitty Raw, we're going to take it back. And we're literally going to make this such a thing that when we leave the venue, we're still going to be chanting and singing this goddamn song.
I joked and said that the award probably said 2012 on it because it was a bigger thing last year than it was this year.
Well, I think they're trying. It's funny because the most obnoxious chant in WWE for the long time has been what?
Yeah.
And the WWE seems so hell-bent on, like, expunging what from the vernacular of the WWE universe, but so quick to replace it with yes. To the point where the Big Show was even using it. He was riding the tailcoats.
Yeah.
The coattails of yes. Coattails of yes to further his... Whatever.
All right. These are WWE.com awards. What a maneuver. Best move of the year.
Oh, man. I actually thought Dean Ambrose skinning the cat on the ladder, despite the fact that he had to do it twice because he botched it the first time, that was actually really cool.
It doesn't necessarily have to be like a move or something. It's more like an FU or a GTS or something like that.
I see. I've never really been lately. I've never really been that impressed with WWE finishing moves.
Roman Reigns spear won.
It's a spear.
Yeah.
How many times have you seen someone use a spear?
Faction of the year.
It probably went to the Shield.
Yep. You still got it?
You still got it. Who that would have gone to? Because I'm trying to remember this past Rumble. Because Road Dogg wasn't this past Rumble, was he?
I think it was 2 years ago.
Yeah, so this year was the Chris Jericho. I think it would have been the Chris Jericho.
It actually went to Goldust.
Ooh, that is a good one. Well, because in terms of You Still Got It, it shouldn't go to Jericho because Jericho never really went anywhere.
Yeah, exactly.
And he's even said to fans, they chant You Still Got It. He goes, I didn't go anywhere. Goldust is definitely, and I said with Catherine, we said it a few shows ago, Goldust got better with age.
Yeah.
If you want my house, he definitely got much better with age.
Couple of the year.
Oh, who the hell cares?
I know. Daniel Bryan and Brie.
Oh, whatever.
Yeah, it's a political move. Tag team of the year.
Tag team at Cody and Goldust.
Yeah, surprisingly, I was surprised they won. Not because I didn't think they didn't deserve to, but
they're like the only real tag team right now.
Oh, I thought they'd get the WWE spin and be like, oh, it's the Shield or something. I don't know.
Whatever, yeah.
Let's see. I don't even remember this. Feat of Strength of the year.
They're probably going to try to give it to Ryback.
It was Mark Henry pulls 2 trucks with his bare hands. I don't even remember that.
I do remember that. But it was like such a quick thing that if you didn't see it, it's like it never happened. Were those all the picks?
Of what? Feat of Strength?
No, I just mean in terms of like the Slammies.
I'm trying to see what else. Best dance move.
Oh, whatever. I don't even care.
Funkadactyls. They get worse from you. It's just like WWE.com best show. Fuck that.
Yeah. Well,
breakout star of the year. The Shield took it as a whole.
What? That doesn't even make sense.
I know. Pick too many co-fucking winners.
Yeah.
Pick one guy and he's the winner.
Well, on that note, 978-276-9418.
Wait, do you have a listener of the year, Slammy, that we can verbally present to somebody?
Oh, Jesus Christ. Well, I've been in a media blackout and in developmental, and he's been like, do you remember our fans?
Well, let's see. Who is prominent with us? The Undertweeter. Fuck the Fan Podcast. Who else? Let's see.
Jason?
There's Dave the Heel. I know my pick.
Who's your pick?
My pick is going to Michael Sears.
Oh, he was good. He was really good. I feel awful because I haven't been on Twitter. You know who I'm going to give it to, actually? And I feel awful because I can't even remember now. Because it's been so long since, we've been actively doing this. The guy that donated the money for the walk to me.
Yeah.
I'm giving it to that guy. That was different than, they're funny and they're cool. And that was, that affected my life personally.
Definitely.
And I feel terrible because I can't even remember his name now. And that proves how little interaction Jason and I have had in terms of doing the podcast. But if I can remember that guy, I will tweet him later and give that to him. Or on the next show, I'll make a point of making a big fucking deal about that guy. Because that was dude, I'm barely doing a wrestling podcast. He literally, $45 of his money went into my donation thing and went to that organization. That was pretty fucking huge. So
That's huge.
Yeah, so that was cool. Yeah.